Okay, good afternoon. Beshem Hashem Naseh V'Natzliach. Now we are going to learn about part two of the birth of David Hamelech and his life. This shiur is Le'ilui Nishmat Yechezkel Baruch ben Avraham Levi and Hanania ben Reuven and Machluf ben Nisim, and all those who were murdered prior, on, and after October 7. And Refuah Shlema to Avraham ben Chana, Zechariah Dov ben Pearl Shira, Mazal bat Goltej Sultanat, Chaya Eser bat Nechama, and Tova bat Tzipora. And for all our singles, she's cool if not bait name man B'Israel B'Kedusha or B'Tahara. And for the Parnasa, the Bracha, Hatzlacha, Shalom, Shalom Bait, and for the success of the chinuch of our children in Derech HaTorah, Beshalom. And thank you, Hashem, for all your chasadim. So, in the first lesson about David HaMelech, we're learning about his birth, and we ended the class with the question: why didn't Nitzevet tell her family what happened? Right? So there are a number of reasons. The first one is that, first of all, they would not believe her. That she had switched places with her maid. Number one. Number two, that even if she would tell the maid to tell her family what had happened, that they had switched places, they would not believe the maid. They would say, of course, you're the maid and she's boss. She's the boss. So, of course, you're going to agree with your boss. And number three is that she did not want to embarrass Yeshaya. So for 28 years, Netzevet kept quiet about this. She suffered in silence, and she saw how David was mistreated by his brothers. As David said in Tehillim, Muzar ha'iti livnei imi. I was a stranger to my mother's sons. Why? Because he was red. The rest of his brothers did not have red hair or a red complexion. So it was even more strange to them. And got to the point that they would not even allow David to eat on the same table as them. They sent him to be a shepherd. They would send him and he would spend his days in the field in the hope that he would be devoured by a wild animal and he would just disappear, would be gone. And their problems would be over. And that is actually what David said when he came to to Shaul. When David had come to visit his brothers, they were at war. He came to visit the Jewish camp, and his father had given him food to take his brothers. At the time, the Plishtim were fighting the war against Ben Israel, and Goliath, the giant, was there. And every day he would come out and he would insult the Jews, that they had no one who was brave enough to fight him. And David was so upset when he heard Goliath speak so disrespectfully to Ben Israel and about Hashem, that he said, I will kill him. All the other soldiers were scared of this giant. He was huge. He was a giant. But David was not scared. So he said, I'm ready to fight him. They took him to Shaul. Shaul asked him a few questions. And David said, listen, I have fought 3 lions and 4 bears. I'm not scared of this giant. You see, what happened is Nitzevet's power of silence became David's power of speech. So while he felt rejected, not wanted, not loved by his family, he composed Tehillim. And when David was not out in the fields taking care of the sheep, he would be found in the Bet HaMidrash learning Torah. He became a very big Talmid Chacham. And whenever there was a discussion in Halacha, it was decided based on David's decision. David became the leader, the Rosh Sanhedrin, the president of the highest court. David used a violin with 7 strings. In nowadays, the violin has only 4 strings. And he would play music and sing to Hashem with such a pure heart. He had Ruach HaKodesh. Because we know that only through Simcha a man can become a Navi, among other requirements. Being a tzaddik, having good midot, good traits, being a Talmid Chacham. David became a Navi because of his Simcha, even though he suffered so much. He had every reason to be sad and blame others for his home situation, but he didn't. He focused on his talents and he felt Hashem's protection in every step and anything and everything that he did. He compared to himself to a bird, to a kik. A kik is a bird in Perek Kuf Bet. That's a bird who lives in the desert alone and rejected. No other birds come to stay with this one. So when Shemuel asked to see the last child, David was told to refresh himself, since Shemuel is here to see him. I have to be present, said Nitzevet, when she saw that David was getting ready to meet the Navi. And her emotions really knew no bounds because she knew now the truth was going to come out. All this time, all these years, she had been quiet, but the truth was going to come out finally. When she saw that David was being anointed, to the amazement of Yishai and his sons, they were so shocked they could not believe. They could not believe that David was being anointed to be a king. Not only this, the Midrash says that the oil that was mixed with some certain spices, the shemen hamishcha, was put into like a horn, and obviously it had a stopper, right? And as Shmuel removed the stopper and wanted to pour the oil on the head of David, the oil seemed to be coming up by itself and pour itself onto David's head. And Yishai and the brothers could not believe what they saw. 28 long years of self-control from Nitzevet and from David. All those insults and all those times that told him, you cannot eat with us. He felt it. He knew he was not loved by his family. What a shock. Within one instant, David's status was changed from being rejected, from being a shepherd, to being crowned king of Israel. Nitzevet said, she said Hallel. What did she say? Even ma'asu haponim hayeta lerosh pina. The stone that was despised by the builders. The builders, it means Yishai and his brothers. That stone, which is she refers to is David Hamelech, became the cornerstone, meaning this child David was despised by his brothers who were building Jewish nation. Now this child David is the cornerstone, meaning he is the one that's been chosen to be the first king of Israel, which is a very important stone from Shevet Yehuda. The brothers and Yishai said, Me'et Hashem haytazot, he niflat be'enenu. This is from Hashem. This is such a wonder in our eyes. We're so amazed. It's all from Hashem. It's a miracle. And then they said, Anna Hashem Hoshi Anna. Hashem, please save us. Now they were scared of David. Oh, maybe David is going to take revenge. All those years, for 28 years that he suffered, maybe now David's going to take revenge. Right? And they were scared of him. What he might do to them. But David said, Anna Hashem Hatzlichana. No, don't be afraid. May Hashem bless us with success. David forgave his brothers and his father. He never felt any anger or resentment towards them. It was all from Hashem. He really believed that 100%. Ze hayom asa Hashem nagila v'nismecha bo. This day, Hashem is the one who made this day come true. Let's be happy. Why destroy the happiness of this day in resentment and anger? No. So the next question is, why is it that such a neshama that was so pure, right, David's neshama, had to suffer so much? Why? Had to suffer so much? And go through so much pain and suffering? So the Gemara explains, when Hashem created the world, Hashem showed Adam HaRishon like a movie, right, of every single generation that was going to be in the world, every leader that was going to be in the world, until the end of time. Hashem showed him the special neshamot of tzaddikim of every generation. The neshama of David was supposed to live only for a few minutes and die at childbirth. Adam had pity on such a beautiful and pure neshama, and he said, I will give 70 years of my life for this neshama. But when Adam sinned by eating the forbidden fruit from Etz Hadat, the Arizal says that David's neshama was affected by this sin. His neshama fell in tum'ah. Because of this, David's neshama came from Ruth, from Kochot HaTum'ah. Ruth came from Moab. She had converted, right? As we just read yesterday in Megillat Ruth. And the Kochot HaTum'ah would not let go of this pure neshama, knowing that David was going to come from this neshama, that this was going to be David's neshama, and Mashiach would come from from David. And so, and Mashiach, the task of Mashiach is to purify the Jews and the world to get closer to Hashem. So Ruth came from Moab. Their Moab, they were at the 49th level of Tum'ah, of impurity. And that was only through Ruth HaMoaviyah could the neshama of David come into the world. It had to be like through a trick. So first, it had to go through Lot and his daughters, and because Lot and his daughters, they had Moab. One had Moab, the son called Moab. Her Lot's daughter had a child with Lot, and that was Moab. She called him Moab. And the second daughter had also a child with her father, and she called it Ammon. Okay? And then we have the story of Tamar and Yehuda, so that Yehuda married his daughter-in-law, and who was born? The twins, who were both tzaddikim, Peretz and Zerach. And from Peretz was the grandfather of Boaz, the husband of Ruth, the great-grandfather of David Hamelech. Yishai was born, right? And from Yishai came David. Yishai thought that this child, David, is a mamzer, because he didn't understand how his wife is pregnant. But finally, David is born, and he's recognized by his family and by everyone for who he really truly was at the age of 28. But Hashem's plans are not over, because Shlomo, David's son, is supposed to build the Bet HaMikdash. He was the son of Bathsheba, and there was also a problem there. Shlomo was able to teach everyone the Chokhmah of Hashem. Shlomo was able to spread Hashem's name in the entire world. So Hashem would be recognized not only by the Jews, but also by the non-Jews, by the Goyim. No wars were fought during the reign of Shlomo. Unfortunately, certain things did not work out, and Mashiach did not come during the time of Shlomo. That's what they had thought it would happen. So how did David survive all these years? We come back now to David. How did David survive all these years of pain and suffering? The simple answer is Emunah. And this is the lesson that David teaches us. Have Emunah. Lo gava libi, David said. Velo ramu enai. I've never complained. My heart was never too proud of who I became, and my eyes did not become haughty. Again, I did not become full of myself, and I did not complain that life was not fair. I never was angry at Hashem, but the moment I became a king, lo gava libi, I was not filled with pride. I always felt my connection to you, Hashem. Because of his emunah, he always felt that connection to Hashem. I always accepted whatever came from you, whatever came my way. Ne'eman alai hadin. I accept your judgment. We say this, ne'eman alai hadin, when something happens and we don't understand and it's a terrible thing that happens. What does this mean? It means I accept. Hashem, you're the judge. I accept your judgment. And Chachamim tell us that this is a fundamental saying and belief that will go a very long way. So now until now, we talked about the neshama of David, how special it was, how he accepted all his suffering, right? And we also talked that because of the sin of Adam Arishon, what happened? The neshama went to Moab, right? To Ruta Moaviyah. And Chachamim explain, actually, they tell us that the David has a spark from Adam Arishon. Bathsheba has a spark of Chava. Ruth has a spark of Tamar. And Peretz and Tzemach, their spark went into Machlon and Chilion, the children of Naomi. So now let's go back to David. What was his secret? That he was able to stand and hold on to his emunah again and again and again, no matter what happened. What zchut did David have to become the king? Right? And the kingship stayed in his family, and that Mashiach will come from him. David was the king for 40 years. He was the king for 7 years in Hebron, and then 33 years in Yerushalayim. That means that for the first 7 years of his reign, only the Shevet Yehuda accepted him as the king, and then when he was in Yerushalayim, it means the entire nation accepted David as the king. David had many wives. A king must have many wives so that he can have many children, just to make sure that there's always someone surviving from the king's family. As it happened, maybe later on, we'll have time, there was at one point in history where someone wanted to destroy every single child. They came from David Hamelech, and she almost succeeded. Only one baby was left, and they had to be kept in hiding by the Kohanim until he was 7 years old. That's when he was brought out. But until then, this child had they had to really be very careful to make sure that no one would know that this child was alive. So a king must have a few wives and children. So his first wife was Michal, the daughter of Shaul. Second one was Abigail. Third one, Achinoam. Then the fourth one, Israelite. Then number 4 was Ma'acha bat Talmai. Number 5 was Chagit. Number 6 was Avital. Number 7 was Rizpah bat Aya. Number 8 was Bathsheba, the mother of Shlomo. Now his sons were Amnon, Kilav. Kilav died very, very young, but he was a tzaddik. He went straight to Gan Eden. Avshalom, Adoniah. These 2 children had actually led a rebellion against their father. Shephatiah, Yitreem, Shamoa, Shuva, Natan, Shelomo, Elishua, Nepheg, Yafia, Elishama, Eliada, Eliphalet, Noga, Tamar, Yerimot, and Yivhar. The 20 children. These are all the names of the children of David Hamelech. So let's take a quick look at David's life and how much suffering he went through. And when we learn about it, we all think, how did he do it? How did he go through life? So first, number one, we know that he was a shepherd, right? And not just a regular one, not just a regular shepherd. He would first let out of the pen the young sheep, right? The little ones, so that then he would take them to a part of the field where the grass was nice and tender. It would be easier for them to eat the grass. And then he would take later on, he would take the older one out of the pen and take them to an area where the grass had to be really pulled, but those older sheep, they were able to actually do it. And he loved he loved everyone, and he had a lot of rahamim, compassion. Hashem saw this. Hashem saw how much love he had for everyone and how much care and compassion he had for taking care while he was taking care of his sheep. And Hashem said, if you can have such compassion for your sheep, you're such a good shepherd, I want you to be the shepherd of my people. Shemuel anoints David to become the future king. Right away, David receives Ruach HaKodesh. And at the same time, Ruach HaKodesh leaves Shaul, who was the king at the time. And Shaul was the king from Shevet Binyamin. So instead of Ruach HaKodesh in Shaul, Ruach Ra'ah, that means sadness and depression, now entered the life of Shaul. And that's why later on we see and we learn how Shaul, in these moments, he would be filled with depression, and Shaul was fed a lot of lies from a few people about David, that David wanted to kill Shaul, and Shaul believed it. He didn't realize that these were lies, and that's why Shaul had wanted so many times to kill David. Then David becomes the violin player of Shaul, and that helps to remove the depression from Shaul. It really gave Shaul a very good feeling when he would hear the music from David. Then David comes one day to the army camp, and there was the war against Goliath. And actually, Goliath was the great grandson of Orpah, who is a sister of Ruth HaMoaviyah. When David is presented to Shaul, and Shaul asks questions of David, David said, I'm not scared of him. I killed 3 lions and 4 bears. I'm not scared of this giant. So Shaul said, okay, let's bring him my armor, let him put it on. Now David was short. Shaul was very tall. Shaul was Mishechmo Vamala. It means that there was no one that reached higher than the shoulder of Shaul. The king had to be tall, but David was short. So they brought the armor. At that very moment that David Hamelech wore the armor, David instantly, there was a miracle, and he started to grow and fill up the armor. When Shaul saw this, Shaul was so scared, and he started to get angry. What? You are the you're going to be the king after me? And when David saw that look, a look that could kill, in the eyes of Shaul, David said, "No, no, no. I can't. I'm not comfortable wearing it." And he removed it. He said, "No, let me go and fight Goliath the way I am, the way I know how to." And and that's what happened. So he went out and he was able to kill Goliath, and David became the hero of the nation. He was paraded through the streets of Yerushalayim and all the cities of Eretz Israel. Women were singing songs in honor of David, and they were saying, "Hikar Shaul be'alafav ve'David be'rivevotav," meaning that Shaul had killed thousands of Plishtim, because Shaul was a very brave soldier, but David killed tens of thousands, right? And Shaul, as we said, he became jealous because now he did not have any more Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh left Shaul and gone to David, and he became jealous of David. From that day on, Shaul tried to kill David. Shaul had an advisor, as I said before, people who filled up his mind with lies about David. And one of them was Doeg HaEdomi. He did not like David. He did not like Yishai's family. He is the one who had said the whole time, David is not Jewish, Yishai is not Jewish. He is the one that had brought division into the nation. And he would constantly speak to Shaul against David. And he would say, David wants to be the king, but he's not Jewish. How can he become a king? And he would say, people are helping David to get rid of Shaul, which was not the truth. David had 600 men, fighters, very brave fighters, who were very loyal to David, very loyal to David, and they were very brave. But they did not want to kill Shaul. One day, David was playing the violin for Shaul, and Shaul at that moment was depressed, he was filled with jealousy, and he was filled of fear that David wanted to kill him. He took his spear and he threw it at David, wanting to kill David. At the last second, David had moved, and the spear missed David. David ran away because he realized Shaul wanted to kill him. But Shaul would always send spies to find out where is David, because he wanted to catch him and kill him. Once soldiers came to Michal, because David was married to Michal, and they said, we want to see, the king wants to see, we came to take David to your father, the king. Said, oh, but he's not feeling well. She knew the truth. She knew what would happen to David. So he's not feeling well. He's in bed. And she sent them away. Quickly, she went to David, who was still in the house, and she told him, go, run away, because they're going to come back. And this is exactly what happened. David had the chance to run away. In the meantime, what she did, she took blankets, and she took like something that looked to make it look like a body, and she covered it with blanket, and she left it there in bed. And then when they came knocking at the door, and I said the king said to bring him even if he's in bed, sick in bed. And she said, okay, so go upstairs. This way, she was really just giving more time for David to get away. And when they came and they saw a shape, that's what it was David. They uncovered the shape and realized it was just blanket, and David was not there. And they realized that they had been tricked um, by Michal. David had run away through the window, and he was far, far away by now. Then David ran away, and he went to Nov. Nov was the city of Kohanim. Kohanim lived there, and he asked from Achimelech, the Kohen Gadol. He asked him, please give me food. I'm very hungry. I'm on my way. Take care of something. So the Kohen Gadol gave him some food, and he also gave him the sword from Goliath that was kept there in Nov, in the Mishkan, and he runs away. Unfortunately, there was one man who had seen what happened between the Kohen Gadol and David, and who he was? Doeg HaEdomi. So Doeg HaEdomi went to Shaul and told him, you know who is helping David against you? The Kohanim. The Kohanim are against you, and they want to rebel against you. And so they are helping David. This is what the Kohen Gadol did. The Kohen Gadol gave David the sword and food. And Shaul was really very, very, very upset. And he came with his army, and he killed the Kohanim. There was only one child that was able to survive, and that child was Yehonatan ben Aviatar, the Kohen. Then David runs away. He runs away to Achish, the king of Gath. And there, people said, oh, this is David, the king of the Jews. Let's capture him and kill him, right? They captured him and they brought him to Achish, the king. But what did David do? He decided to behave like crazy. He behaved like crazy, like unbelievable. His behavior was really not normal at all. That day, the king's daughter had become crazy. And she was yelling and screaming and doing all kinds of crazy things. And David was doing the same thing. So the king was very angry at his soldiers. What did you do? I don't have enough with my daughter who's crazy. You bringing me another crazy person? Take him out of here. Throw him out. And that's what saved David's life. Then David runs away to the desert, and he hides in a cave. At this point, David takes his parents with him, as they also are in danger, and his brothers. What does he do? He takes them to Moab, thinking they'll be safe in Moab. However, while David had to leave to go to war, unfortunately, the people of Moab said, we're going to destroy this family, because they came from Ruth. Ruth was a traitor. She left us and she went to join the Jews. We're going to kill them all. They killed everyone, the brothers, the parents, everyone. There was just one brother or a nephew who was able to run away, escape. And then we see that David runs away again. Hashem tells him that people told Shaul, well, where David is hiding, right? So David will know to run away again. And he runs away and he goes to Ein Gedi. So you see that David does not have a moment of shalom, of peace, of nachat. He's constantly running for his life. And so in En Gedi, David and his men hide in a cave. Shaul comes after David, but they cannot find him. Not Shaul, not his army. Nobody can find David. But Shaul needed to relieve himself. Decided he's going to go into a cave someplace where he can have some privacy and relieve himself. So he did. He actually went into the cave where David was hiding. Shaul did not realize how close David was to him. David could actually really could have, if he really have wanted to, it could at that moment it could have killed Shaul, but he did not kill him. Instead, he just tore a piece of his cloak, of his cape, and he let Shaul get away. Shaul leaves, and he did not even notice that his cape had been torn. When Shaul was far away, David comes out and he calls up Shaul. And he says, Shaul, you are the Mashiach of Hashem. It means you are anointed by Hashem, aren't you? Look, I could have killed you if I wanted to. Here, look, I have a piece of your cloak, of your cape. Shaul checks, and it's true. His cape is torn. So David said, I never wanted to kill you. And Shaul says, okay, come, I won't kill you. But David doesn't trust. He knows that Doeg is there and Doeg is going to make trouble. Maybe Shaul means not to harm David, but as long as Doeg is there, Doeg is going to make sure that Shaul will listen to him. Later that night, David and Avishai, one of his generals, they go to Shaul's camp, and David is able to take the water bottle of Shaul. So in the morning again, David is far away, but again he calls out. He says, Shaul, look at this. Avner, you did not take care of the king. How could you have slept? You slept last night and I was right there. I could have killed the king, but I have no wish to kill the Mashiach of Hashem, the one who has been anointed by Hashem. And Shaul promises again, I will not kill you, David. But again, David does not trust. Then Shaul goes to war against the Plishtim again, because the Plishtim constantly, they would come out to war. Every war they lost, and every time they would come back again and again to fight Ben Israel. That Shaul is killed with his sons at war. David cries bitter tears for these brave men, for Shaul was such a brave man. David has no resentment against Shaul. And David cries for the children of Shaul who were killed at war also. And so in part 3, we will see what happens with David and Bathsheba. So we'll see you next time.